So this is the extension for the algebra. So we're going to just look at a few, at some pages of some ideas where you're extending what we've already worked on. And the first one we want to look at is something involving factorizing. And remember that when we're factorizing, if it's a trinomial, we use that AC method. Okay. So we use that AC method for factorizing. Yeah? So what we're going to show you is what happens when that first number is not a 1. It does not change the number at all, the process at all. Okay? Now, I really want all of you to look at this first one, though. Say we have x squared minus 4 equals 0. All right. We have an x squared. This is actually a special case, but we're not going to worry about learning the special case. Instead, I'm going to show you how to do this with the AC method. You will all want to look at this. Ladies, come on. So, what we usually have is we have our A, our B, and our C. Yes? But in this case, I have an x squared, so that gives me my A. I have a constant, so that gives me my C. But what's missing? The B term in the middle, right? Because usually it would be x squared plus some x's plus some constant equals a number. So you'd have 3 terms. Well, if I don't have any x's in the middle, what number represents don't have any? 0. So this is really the same as x squared plus 0 x's minus 4 equals 0. Does that make sense? So if you don't have an x term in the middle, okay? All right, so when I'm doing that, I'll just say that b is 0 because I don't have any plain old x's. And then 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. I'm looking for the two factors of negative 4 that will combine to make 0. Since that's negative, the signs will be the same or different? Different if it's a negative. That's the only way to multiply and get a negative is it's different. Okay? So 1 and 4 won't combine to make 0, I'm sorry. But 2 and 2, if that one's positive and that one's negative, what are you going to get? 0. So your two numbers that you're going to use, so you're going to get x squared plus 2x's minus 2x's minus 4. Break it in half. The first two will divide by x, so you get x plus 2. Bring down the minus. Second two will divide by 2, so you get x plus 2. Do the brackets match? Yes, and they have to. So we get x plus 2 times what? X minus 2. And they still equal 0, and then you can just finish it from there. All right? So if you don't have an x term, just use what number? 0. Okay? And then when you find those factors, you're going to get some. You're actually going to get some things there, right? Even though they weren't in your original. Does that make sense? Later, you're going to learn that particular one is a special case, and we'll deal with that. But you'll deal with that in another year level. Okay? All right. The second thing I want to show you is what happens when you're factorizing, and that first number is not a 1. And you have to be very careful when that happens to see that. Okay. So in this example, if you look what's happening here, this time we don't have just plain x squared there, we have 3x squared. It does not change the method one bit. It's just going to make your number bigger at the end. There is absolutely no difference between this and what we've been doing. So we're just still going to list our A and our B and our C. Our A in this case happens to be 3. Our B is 8. And our C is 4. So we're going to just simply multiply our A times C. So 3 times 4 gives us a positive 12. I'm looking for the two factors of positive 12 that combine to make 8. Since that's positive, the signs are going to be the same or different? Same. Good. So 1 and 12 won't add or add to make 8. So because if the signs are the same, you're going to be adding them together, right? Not subtracting them. 2 goes into 12 6 times. Will they add to make 8? Yep. And I need them both to be positive to make a positive 8. So 3x squared stays the same. I'm replacing positive 8x with positive 2x and positive 6x, and then my plus 4 stays the same. Right? Remember, we're always simply replacing that middle term with those two new factors that I got. So it's just exactly the same process. It's just the numbers usually get a little bigger. Break it in half. Looking at the first two, 3x squared and 2x will both divide by an x. So if you divide that out, we get 3x plus 2. Bring down your plus. 6 and 4 will both divide by 2. 6x divided by 2 is 3x. Positive 4 divided by 2 is positive 2. Do the brackets match? Yep, and they have to. So we get 3x plus 2 times x plus 2. So exactly the same process, you're just going to get bigger numbers, right? So that there's some other number in front there. So other than that, it's identical. Not at all. You could put the 6 here and the 2 there, but the only thing that'll happen is it'll just reverse these two brackets. And they don't make the difference what order they're in because they're multiplied. Good question. Yeah, perfectly fine. Okay. Well, no, because this one's just a factorize. It's not an equation. Guys, and that's a very good thing to remember, too. If it just says factorize it, can I solve it? No, because it's not equal to 0. So watch out for that equals 0 thing. Now, if it had equals 0 at the end, then you would have to continue to solve it. But if it doesn't, don't. You will be penalized. Guys, you're not listening. You will be penalized if you solve something that's not an equation. So if it just says factorize it, that's all you can do. So make sure you know what kind of problem you're dealing with. Okay? All right, let me see. All right, guys. The only other thing that we haven't done is we are going to look at what are called linear inequalities. Now, you solve these just like an equation. With one exception. And that exception is, except if you divide by a negative number it reverses the inequality symbol. So if you can avoid dividing by a negative, you don't even have to worry about this. But sometimes you can't avoid it. So say, for example, you have x plus 4 is greater than 2. Now so this is an inequality symbol. Is greater than or less is greater than or is less than. So you solve them just like an equation. So here I would subtract the 4. Does subtracting 4 change the symbol? Reverse the symbol? Nope. Only dividing by a negative does. So it gives you x is greater than negative 2. And that's your answer. Okay? Now, but if you had negative 2x is less than 4, I need to solve that by dividing by the coefficient. And the coefficient in this case is negative 2. That'll divide away and give you x. 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. But because I divided by a negative, that is simply going to flip that symbol over and reverse it. Just because I divided by a negative. But that is the only reason that's going to change. It's multiply or divide by a negative, but you're never going to be multiplying by a negative anyway. Okay? So you just solve it. And if you divide by a negative, then you have to reverse the symbol. Now, if you were going to be betting on something, and they were going to test on this and give you one of these on an extension test, what do you think you're going to have to know? That you have to reverse the symbol. So make sure right? Because they're not going to give you this easy, cheesy one that's just like an equation. They're going to give you something like this where you have to reverse the symbol. Okay? And that's pretty much the only things different on your extension from your regular test. Okay? Now,